You're listening to Witch Wednesdays, a semi-weekly podcast source for all things witchcraft in the modern world. Join your host, Steph, on Wednesday mornings to chat about seasons, Sabbats, and all new witchcraft topics to help you make your life more magical.
Welcome back to Witch Wednesdays. I'm Steph, and I have two guests here with me today to chat about their beautiful book that I just received in the mail and I'm very excited about. So before we dive into that, I'm going to turn it over to them so they can introduce themselves and let you know where you can find them online.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. I'm Jezmina von Thiele. I'm a writer, performer, educator, podcaster. And Paulina Stevens and I have just written Secrets of Romani Fortune-Telling, and we are also co-hosts of Romanistan podcast. And I read tarot, palms, and tea leaves in my mixed Romani tradition. I'm based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I read a lot at Deadwick's Ethereal Emporium. And I also do online readings and events all over the place. And we are just about to go on book tour, which is super exciting. And you can find me on JezminaVonTila.com as well as RomanistanPodcast.com. And I'm Jezmina Von Thiele on all social media too.
And I'm Paulina Stevens. Thank you for having me here. And I am the co-author of Secrets of Romani Fortune-Telling and Romanistan podcast as well, that I co-host with Jezmina. And I own a small store called Romani Holistic in Laguna Beach, California, but it's mostly kind of an online business where I operate with people kind of throughout the world, I would say. And I'm also a mom, and yeah, that's it, really.
Well, thank you both for being here. The first two questions that I want to ask are going to kind of be big ones. And the first being, so your new book that is out, what do you want people to know about it? What is the topic, especially in terms of beginners who don't, like, maybe look at the cover and don't understand what Romani fortune-telling even is? What is this book about?
So most people would know the Romani culture by the word gypsies. It's been used as a slur, though, especially in the US and some other countries. It's also a misnomer. Some Romani people claim the word gypsy really proudly. Some people really don't. Most Roma prefer that non-Romani people do not use it or appropriate it. But basically, Roma are a diasporic ethnic group originally from India, but a long time ago, that began leaving India in waves around the 10th century. And over the centuries, Romani people have been met with a lot of different types of persecution, 500 years of slavery in present-day Romania, forced deportations, all kinds of marginalization. And so for our survival, Romani people have traditionally worked trades that you can work on the road because due to persecution, we were forced into nomadism. Some Roma still are nomadic, but most are settled. And yeah, so Romani fortune-telling is the kind of fortune-telling that most people are familiar with in the mainstream because fortune-telling was one of our many survival trades, including, alongside metalworking, performing, basket weaving, animal trading, all these different cool things that Roma do. And tarot, palmistry, tasseomancy, like tea and coffee reading, were really deeply shaped by Romani survival trades and practices of these things. And so if you were wondering about the cultural context of tarot, palmistry, tasseomancy, it's definitely rooted in Romani culture. And this book is both the cultural context and history of the Romani people who are often mysterious and misrepresented or maligned, as well as a how-to guide for these main types of divination. And we introduce a few other things. We have tea recipes and reflections on Roma and intuition techniques and why we're known as being intuitive. And it's really just also a bit of personal memoir as well, because both Paulina and I grew up in fortune-telling families, and we share what that was like, especially because Roma tend to pursue fortune-telling as a job. It's a different approach Paulina, is there anything you want to add to that?
I feel like you grasped it for sure.
No, that was a great description. And I really loved your stories in your book and your background and your pictures, especially with your family. I was like, oh, this is such a sweet touch. It was so great to be able to like see, not only the authors, but then like where you came from as well. And to have those like family stories of just growing up in like households like that. That's like so different. I know for a lot of my listeners who are maybe first generation witches and did not experience that growing up or came from like a particularly religious background and are now going the other way and diving into the witchcraft thing. So it's always really interesting to hear those stories from people who grew up with parents who kind of already believed in those things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, Paulina grew up in a very Catholic household, but these things are not necessarily contradictory for a lot of Roma. Paulina, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think I'll refer to us just so the listeners know as gypsies, just because that's what I'm used to calling us. So yeah. So basically, some Roma family does not do fortune telling, and they do grow up in strong religious households, and they look down on other Romani people who do fortune telling. And this has become like, and then there's also, people that grew up with fortune telling. Some occasional families are like, well, they think they're better than us because, they don't have to do fortune telling or whatever it is. So there's this definitely, I don't even know how to explain it, but like just a funny vibe in the air when it comes to fortune telling and religion and or no religion, or some Roma, have completely different views on it. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it. And I hope that we can, I hope we covered most of that to a degree, maybe not all detail, but we covered as much as we can.
No, you definitely did. I learned a lot from reading it. And I know for listeners, once you get your hands on the book, that you did include that information about using the term gypsy, like that's in the book. And I thought that was like really great, really well written. And I learned a lot from that because I already knew a lot of the problems with that word, especially because for a long time, Spirit Halloween was selling a costume that was like just called like the gypsy costume. And it was just like a fortune teller. I was like, this cannot
Oh
be
yeah.
right. Like this is just like looking at it and like looking at the term on it. I was like, this seems rude. Like just, I don't need to even know like the history to look at something and be like, this is a problem. Like I can tell.
Oh
So
yeah.
the way that you included that information in there, I thought was really important, but also still made it like the rest of the book accessible. You weren't like, you can't use this term and also you can't use any of like this magic and you can't learn anything from it. It was just about being respectful.
Yeah, that's what we really want to do is just teach people how to respectfully and authentically engage with these trades. Because someone said to me once, like, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Even though these are Romani practices, they've gone mainstream. So we just want to add context to it and also share how we do it because you might know a part of it, but when it comes straight from the source, you learn so much more.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating because I am familiar with some forms of fortune telling and tarot especially, but I liked the information that you provided in the ways that it was different. And I also love that you included coffee because that's one of my favorite things. Everybody talks about tea leaves. And you're like tea and coffee reading. So it's like, yes.
Yeah, Paulina's specialty is definitely the coffee reading, and I grew up more with the tea leaf reading.
I enjoy both of them, but I know that every time I say something about tea leaf reading or post something about it, everybody's like, can you do it with coffee? I'm like, let me tell you all because I am a coffee drinker myself. I find it a little bit easier to do divination with tea leaves, but I do like coffee is my life. So
That's so funny. I'm the opposite because I can't even drink coffee. Like my heart,
really,
yeah, my heart just starts racing.
Me
I used
too.
to be able to, but now I can't. So I can do divination more with coffee, but I'm a tea drinker all the way.
We definitely leave the coffee out for our ancestors.
Yeah. So you
oh,
always find coffee in the house.
it does make a great offering.
It does. They love it.
So for people who are, have heard the beginning of this and they're like, okay, you got me hooked, I'm interested. What other information can they find in the book that might be useful to applying to their own lives and practices?
I feel this book encompasses way more than even just fortune telling. We actually we didn't even know what the title was really going to be, and we wanted to include kind of a guide. Like this isn't even just a guide. Oops, sorry, my alarm. This isn't even a guide for fortune telling. Just like it's a guide for how to survive in a tough world. It was actually how to thrive in a tough world was the tagline that we had come up with. But I really do feel like that. I think Roma people are very resilient. We're very spiritual. I did a podcast with LA Times Foretold that kind of talks about just the reason I bring it up is because they really talk about the history of Romani people and their persecution and how we integrated fortune telling through that, how to be confident. It's also how to deal with people like I want to say maybe non-believers or difficult clients that might come across with fortune telling, but you can always use those same tools in real life. I would say it's good for social skills as well, I think.
It absolutely is. And I felt that come across in like some of the exercises and things that you had in there, which I think are going to be helpful, especially for the season that we're in and heading into, because it's sort of like that darker part of the year, and you cover ancestor altars, you cover shadow work of like how these pieces all fit together. So I think it's like perfect timing for this book to come into my life.
Oh, we're so glad to hear that. We're doing so many book tour events that are workshop based because this just feels like the perfect time of year. Like we're doing a coffee reading pop up in Portland, Oregon, but we're also doing a lot of like communicating with ancestors or spirits through tarot and tea leaf reading for like creativity, all these fun things. And it's such a, I mean, it's always a good time to get into your witchy side, but especially now.
It is, and I enjoy that in a book because I really am a lover of history and studying, but I know that sometimes that can come across as kind of a slog to get through if it's just like a full like history book. So the fact that you have like not only history and information, but also these like hands-on things that people who are reading the book can do like right away. I think that's really a nice style of book. And I find that to be helpful because you're applying that knowledge and you're able to do it immediately.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad. Paulina and I were always getting questions about like where can we read about the historical context of tarot? Where do we learn these things? And we were like, I guess we should write the book. I guess we have to write about it.
I love people who can take charge like that. So good job. Because I think that I have said it before, I love reading, but I don't have it in me to be a writer and create a book. So I love people who are like, there's something missing in this section. This information doesn't exist out there. So let me create it. Hats off.
Thank you so much.
In terms of your own life, I know that you've got all of this book tour stuff going on, so you're very, very busy right now. But outside of that, maybe before the book was published, I would love to know what are some things that you do regularly in your own life, your own practice? Maybe that's not daily, but weekly, monthly. What are some of your favorites?
In my practice, I would say daily, it's being present. So I really try to kind of disconnect. I'm always having to be like on my phone, on a computer, or, in with another parent planning a play date. Like, I don't even know. I'm like doing random stuff or like having a meeting with someone all the way across the world and like interviewing another gypsy from somewhere. Like, we're always basically doing something. And so staying present is really important to me. Also animals. Jess actually in one of these recent interviews made me realize that's part of my spiritual practice because I didn't view it that way. I thought I just was like, I just need to take care of animals. Like I had like nursed a little baby crow temporarily and I randomly find baby birds, random things, animals. I fostered kittens for over 30 kittens for over a year. and I have two dogs. Like, I don't know, I love animals, and I think I would say that's a big part of my spiritual practice, as well as like even just fortune telling and having ongoing clients. I think it really keeps me in check on a spiritual sense as well. I would say spiritual just in the way of like it just keeps me in check emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, like on all those aspects. Like, so yeah. And what about you, Jess?
I so agree with what you're saying about fortune telling work when you're doing it consistently. It really requires you to take care of yourself. And because if you're going to hold space for people, you really have to be making space for yourself as well. And so, I pull cards for myself, and sometimes it's about daily life things, but a lot of times it's like, am I on the right path? What do I need to know? What's holding me back? I have a Patreon, and I decided to do like a community card pull for like, what are we harvesting at the equinox? And the first card was like anxiety. And I was like, yeah, I do need to address that. I am very anxious right now. Um, and so I really try not to shy away from the more complex parts of my experience. I'm in therapy. I'm going on little dog walks with my dog to clear my head. I'm trying to, connect with my ancestors in the morning. And a lot of it is just what I'm seeing as self-care. But I think, especially if you're raised in a fortune-telling family, that's always going to be through some kind of spiritual lens.
Yeah, it's tough when you are reading for other people because it's so easy to pick up their energies and to like take that home. And you really have to be mindful of that and like take care of yourself because you might be feeling a certain way at the end of the day. You're like, where did this come from? This cannot be mine.
Oh, yeah. That's why we got really into cleansing techniques and ritual in the book as well, because that's such, I mean, yeah, anyone who does any kind of divination work for other people knows how you might, be dreaming of clients or, all kinds of things that are not beneficial for you or the client.
Do either of you, I mean, you mentioned tarot, but do either of you have a favorite technique? Because you do cover like so many in the book that I know people love, like tarot, tea leaf reading, palmistry, like so many different options. Do you have a favorite out of those for your own use?
Yeah, we love this question and we have different answers. So I my favorite can change. But I really have a soft spot for tea leaf reading. I love all my children equally, but um I do really enjoy tea leaf reading because it was probably the most fun in my family. My mom was not really like, she didn't like palm reading. She didn't want me to look at her palm. And so, like, when I was practicing with family, like, I had to practice a lot of myself and my grandma. And then, like, for clients, tarot, yeah, it was kind of hit or miss with my family. They all did it with us and, practice because my grandmother taught me this work. But when the tea leaves came out, everyone was having a party and we're eating food and we're gossiping and we're talking about our lives and sharing. And it was just the most fun in my family. We would do it every Sunday. And I still really hold that in my heart. And I think it's really cool how with tasseomancy, like any kind of, beverage that you're drinking and then reading the dregs, the symbols that come up are really unique to you or unique to the reader and they understand that. So I think that's very fun. But the things I tend to do for myself also tend to be like smoke reading, fire reading, other things that I don't do professionally for others, but are maybe like a little more like traditionally Roma and like personal practice.
I was gonna say, I like how you said it changes because it does change for me as well. Like it depends on my mood. But I even hate saying this, and I say this every time I'm asked. It really is tarot because I love the way that for your family it was so fun with the like everybody's, eating and kind of around. It was like that, but for tarot for sure. Or like everyone was always eating, but then we would bring the cards out, I guess. It was just an easy addition to add. And it's something that was really closely connected to us, and my family holds a lot of pride and like we invented tarot. Like we don't actually know exactly how it went down, but I think yeah, there is just even the fact that it did go so mainstream is what our family's like, we knew that song first. It's like one of those kind of things. And so I think that For me, it still is tarot. I do love coffee readings. I really do. But I also do face readings as well. And again, face reading is like something, again, like it's part of my own practice. Like I don't really offer face reading, but like I will tell people like, show me a picture, like do this, do that. Like I have to like pick up on that energy. I mean, don't we all sometimes like we need a visual. And so a visual for me, like that really helps a lot. So yeah.
I love that tarot is your favorite, honestly. Don't feel shame. I mean, tarot is awesome. It's so fun. Like I love them all.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I mean, tarot speaks to so many of us like for a reason. So I love that. I love that the joy comes out for you, especially when you are involving like your family and everything with that. And on the flip side of the joy that comes with it, because you do talk about in the book about working with people and with clients and with skeptics. So on the flip side of like the joy, the favorite part, do you have any personal pet peeves, things that bother you when it comes to either people, with that comes up like in the readings or like people demanding readings from you on your off time, or whether that is something to do with misconceptions about Romani or the term gypsy, anything around that? Do you have any pet peeves you would like to share?
I do want to say, I don't know if I would call them pet peeves, but I find myself having to stop and educate people often. So whether it's kind of explaining to them, like, yeah, like, not gypsy in that way, or they say things like, well, I'm gypsy too, because I like to travel or whatever. And I'm like, actually, no. So there's a little bit of that. Also, things that come up. I mean, yeah, being respectful of our time. Like a lot of the times the readings are timed. I wasn't always needing to do that, but now I'm in a place where the readings do definitely have to be timed. Um, and so there's that. And I mean, asking the same question sometimes and like taking the deck away from the reader, I would say probably don't do that. But it's happened before multiple times. Has it happened to you, Jess?
Oh my God, yes, it happened like just a few months ago recently, and it was so funny. I mean, we always try to stay so professional and like unflappable in readings, but I was just like, oh, okay, this man just grabbed the deck for me. How dare? Interesting. Let's see how this unfolds. But
Yeah.
immediately angry. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that people can be really rude, they can be racist, they can be sexist. There's all kinds of like really difficult people that do come through our doors, and this is a huge privilege that I have, but I've gotten to this point where I'm busy enough that if someone is rude to me in the first 5 minutes and doesn't respond to my attempts to smooth it over or be diplomatic or sort of change the tone and they just continue, I usually just suggest that, like, do you want a refund? I feel like you're not connecting with me. And because I simply don't have time to be bothered anymore.
I love everything about that statement. And like good for you. And I'm so glad that you are in the position to do that, because nobody should have to put up with that. Know your worth.
Seriously, yeah. Yeah.
That's also, I mean, I don't know. I always kind of throw this in just to let people know, like, we also are in a privileged place where we can say things like that. Like, hey, like, here's your money back, or get a refund, or whatever it is. Some Romani people, or people that are just doing fortune telling solely only, it's you can't always turn people down, so you have to like keep composure and like do whatever you can just to be able to eat that day, and take that disrespect. So there is that. I just wanted to kind of throw that in.
Yeah, it's so important because this is the first year of my career that I felt like I could do that. And it was like, I was like, oh, wow. Because usually we just sort of grin and bear it. And it's like,
Feel the
okay.
same way too, Jen.
Yeah.
This is the first year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And I'm glad for both of you that gotten to that point, because And it's hard. Mine has nothing to do with witchcraft, but when I was in high school, when I was a teenager, I was a waitress at a country club. So you can imagine how well that went.
Oh, yeah.
And that moment, I was like 17 years old, I decided I could never work in customer service. Like people are the
It's
worst.
hard.
Entitled people are the worst. And I can't get to any sort of career that involves catering to other people because it's just the sense of entitlement is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
also, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just agreeing.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, and that's another thing too, is like ever since, so I left my community, ever since I've been kind of out in the real world, I want to say, um, I've been allowed to, take another job or work part-time in marketing or do something like that. And normally, like I would say normally, like in community, you're really not allowed to do that. Or even if you are, like it's still kind of looked down upon. So like you're only allowed to do fortune telling. You can't really like quit and go get another job either. Or you're gonna be disowned from everybody or something.
Yeah, and I grew up with a lot of, I mean, being mixed and assimilated. By that, I mean, like, only my maternal grandmother is Romani. I like to be very clear about that. But I grew up so close with her. She passed down so much of her culture, and it's just been such a big part of my life. But I grew up assimilated. I didn't grow up in a traditional community. And so this was a job that my grandmother was like, this will always serve you. This is what we've done for generations. I'm passing this down to you because it's important. But there was never an expectation that that's all I could do. And, I was encouraged to go to college. And so I think that you lose a lot through assimilation because, every Romani person who can pass is not Romani. In America generally tends to try that. And sometimes people lose a lot of their culture in that. But at the same time, there are challenges to both sides of it, but I had the flexibility that I could pursue other work. I've worked as a adjunct English professor, I've been a waitress, I've done all kinds of things like tech writer. But I always have fortune telling in my pocket, and I've been doing it full time for quite a while now.
And you love it the most, right?
I love it the most, and I'm also a creative writer, and I feel like it really complements, as I'm working on my novel like an hour a week now because I've been so busy, but I still got to make time for it. It's like when you're immersed in human drama and human condition and the intersection of like spirit and science, like it's so inspiring. It really works well for a writer.
I love that you can get inspiration and energy from that because I don't know that I could. I think I would be the opposite where I'd be like, I've had enough people.
Yeah, I definitely have to be careful in my schedule, like a few days on, a few days off.
That makes sense. That's very smart. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you both if you have any advice that you would like to offer beginners, specifically beginners that would be picking up this book and getting interested in this topic for the first time.
My advice for beginners would be to like really fake it till you make it. And that's like be pretend like you know what you're talking about, even if you don't, like go with your gut feeling on that one. Um like literally when I say your gut feeling, it's like sometimes it's just the first thing that comes to your mind. Maybe it's the third, but like use your intuition to choose like which is the thing that comes to your mind that you're gonna communicate with or talk about. And also treat it like a business. And even if you're doing tarot for fun or doing tarot for free, or you are planning on a business or something like that, I say it's always good to treat it like a business. Also, um really respect the practice, continue to grow your knowledge, acknowledge that has been used, as a Romani practice, and the Romani people kind of popularized it. There's just little things like that. Like I'm one thing I do at my store, like just to kind of honor all divination practices, I would say, or in general, I like would buy sage from like a native business or a native person that would pick the sage and stuff like that, and then just kind of explain like, hey, before I light this was a native this is a native, traditionally a native practice, and this is sustainably bought, and just kind of little things like that. And so if there's any way that you can kind of honor us, I think yeah, I would say maybe not advice at the same time, but also we're asking you, please.
Advice and requests.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely if you're beginning these types of divination practices, cultural context is so important. Like any other, if you're learning bone throwing, there's a cultural context to that. There's so many different types of divination out there. So whatever you're doing, I think learn about it and its roots and honor, respect that, and uplift the people whose tradition it belongs to. Um, Also, my advice for beginners is definitely be curious, and I mean that in multiple ways. First, I think it's really good practice to ask the people you're reading for how something resonates with you, if that makes sense to them. What does this mean to you? Like, I think that sometimes people feel like they need to have all the answers, but if you have the Queen of Pentacles in front of you, that could be about money, it could be about health, it could be about home. And so like you can treat readings as a conversation, even if you're, in advanced, because usually people come to you to want to talk, and you can even preface that like, I'm a conversational reader. We're going to talk a little bit. You can share as much or as little as you want. So I think it's good to be curious. And then I also think it's good to be curious about other types of people, because you never know who's going to come through your door. If you don't know how to talk to a trans person, it's a good idea to do some research about like what the trans experience is like, so you don't accidentally be offensive or discriminatory. If you might have clients who come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and you want to make sure that you are maybe like trauma informed or like LGBTQ plus informed or like disability rights informed, like all these different things. So I think it's good to have like a curious intersectional approach. If you're going to work with people, you should know how to work with everybody. Um, and so learn as much as you can just about people, and ask questions in the appropriate context. So like don't rely on your client, for instance, to educate you about their maybe sex work history or something like that. That's something that you can go Googling on your own later and understand, that experience. So yeah, curiosity and respect, huge.
I think that is all great advice and all things that don't take a lot of effort. I think people sometimes get confused, or they are a little scared at the beginning that like, oh my gosh, I'm about to take a 4-hour class on disability rights or something. It's not that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
getting to learn just like the basics of being respectful for any culture or group takes, like you said, a 5-minute Google search, and you can learn so much in that time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think people forget too that with any kind of divination, it's mostly that you're dealing with people's grief and their hopes and their fears and relationships. And so it's like the more you know about these things, the more accurate your readings will be, because you'll understand what the card's referring to. So yeah, be a little nerdy, be curious.
I think that is absolutely all great advice, and the advice to be respectful of the culture that you're getting in from. I think that you give great information about that in the book as well, that like these things are available to you. You can use these fortune telling techniques that you have in the book. And it's just being respectful about the culture that where it came from and just learning more. So I think that's great, because I think a lot of times it can come across in witchcraft practices because nothing is there's like nothing that's distinctly American. Like it all, came from somewhere, and there's like some sort of culture to learn about in the background. And sometimes there can be a lot of gatekeeping with that, and feeling like I can't do anything because there's nothing available to me because I'm not from
Mhm.
any culture. But I love the way that you approach that in this book, that it is available to you. There's just a little respect and learning that goes along with it.
Yeah, totally. And I think sometimes Romani people who have heard our title, Secrets of Romani Fortune-Telling, get really nervous because they're like, we have a lot of closed practices and we are not excited about you sharing them. And we've had to be like, no, 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 no. So we're just sharing what's already out there. We're giving context to what's already out there. Sure, there are things that are, oh, my puppy agrees. Sure, there's things with every culture that it might be closed or sacred or something, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about things that you are already out there or that you can engage with.
We are just a little bit. No, we're a little bit, I would say my family is super conservative on that realm, and they're very unforgiving. So just tiny little things that I barely mentioned, and they're like, no, no, no. So I mean, I guess it depends to a degree, you know, you never know. But at the same
That's
time,
true.
it still is things that are out there. Like all we're doing is yeah, like I think like Jess said, like we are giving the context. So yeah.
Which I appreciate because even like as somebody who has been doing these various forms of fortune telling for a long time, I always learn something new, and I learned new things from your book as well that I was like, I didn't know this. I didn't know this history. I didn't know this part of it. I didn't know this interpretation of like this card or something. So yeah, I learn something new every day, and I always appreciate having more information. I think it makes me a more well-rounded practitioner.
Nice. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you both so much, not only for writing the book and sharing your stories and your knowledge, but also for taking the time to be here today to chat even more about it and sharing all of this information with the listeners. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, if anyone wants to learn more, definitely check out our podcast, Romanistan. We have Romanistan podcast website with a bunch of resources to, other Romani people, organizations who can share information. We definitely shouldn't be your only source. And we're putting on a huge festival in New Orleans, December 3rd through 8th. It'll be a Romani arts, culture, and spirituality festival. It's called Welcome to Romanistan. And so there's so many opportunities to engage with Romani culture coming up, not just from us, but others too. But definitely check out the festival because it's going to be fun.
Yes, that was amazing.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys and listeners. As always, I will have everything we talked about linked in the show notes so you can find it all easily and over at witchwednesdays.com. That is everything I have for you all this week. I will see you next week.
Need even more witchcraft in your life? Subscribe to Witch Wednesdays on Patreon and YouTube for all types of exclusive bonus content like spells, recipes, book reviews, and more, or even order personalized tarot readings and spells. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Witch Wednesdays Podcast, and you can find all these links and more at witchwednesdays.com.